Hello, my name is Taisiya Tselolikhin, and I'm the ELA teacher leader at Pickens Technical College. Thank you for this opportunity to share my presentation with you. I'm going to start with a little bit of background about the school. So our school is Pickens Technical College, and we serve about 1,400 students with a 50-50 split between secondary and post-secondary. The program we're going to be focusing on today is collision repair. And that program, just like all of our others, teachers teach an AM and a PM section of their class, 3 hours each, 5 days a week. And the class time is split between theory and practice. Theory takes about a little bit over an hour, where students get lecture, work on simulation programs, complete projects, and partner work. And during shop time, they're able to go out and apply what they learned in theory in an authentic setting. Now, some assessments have to be mastered in theory time before students will be allowed to go out and practice those skills in the shop. As an ELA teacher leader at this site, my goal is to work with teachers around goals that they generate with a focus on English language learners and differentiating instruction. So for this specific cycle, we wanted to work on differentiating strategies to support student achievement. And the student goal is twofold. The first bullet is something we crafted together with the teacher, where we wanted this specific students to use simple and expanded oral and written sentences with content vocabulary to show understanding, specifically when presented orally. The second bullet is a goal that we crafted with the student, and what he wanted to work on is passing the spray gun test and the page defects test to participate in shop time, because without passing those, he wasn't able to go out and practice those skills. A little bit about the student is his name is Muhammad, and he's 23 years old. He's originally from Somalia, and he has been here for about 6 years. He graduated high school from Overland. He has 2 younger siblings, a 20-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they all live together in Aurora. In Somalia, his father owned a business and his mom was a nurse. Here, his mom stays at home and his dad drives a cab. Muhammad shared that the reason they left Somalia is because of the ongoing conflict. He's also very shy and soft-spoken, which sometimes means that he doesn't advocate for his needs or speak up when he doesn't understand. So because Muhammad was a Cherry Creek student previously, and now he's an adult, we actually don't have any WIDA data on him like we would on an APS, English Language Learner. So Mr. Larson, the collision teacher, and I work together to use some of the available WIDA tools to place Muhammad so we know where we're starting from and we can gauge our progress. Now, Mr. Larson has taken the APS LDE courses, so he's very aware of the need to support language learners in his classroom, so he was open to this possibility. The first thing we did is we took this tool, we looked at it, and we kind of discussed each box and placed it into layman's terms. What is it really saying? We then observed Muhammad in the classroom. We observed him interacting with other students, recorded his speech, analyzed his work, and took his work and compared it to that of his peers. Through that, we decided that on the word and phrase level, Muhammad would be at about a 2, because he does use some instructional expressions, but he struggles with unfamiliar vocabulary, especially collision-specific vocabulary. On the sentence level, we also felt Muhammad would be at about a 2, because he does use basic and simple grammatical structures, but there's not a lot of variety. Now, on the discourse level, we placed him at a 3 because while he uses short sentences with content words, he's really able to expand his thinking and add complexity when talking about topics that he's been exposed to several times or things he's passionate about. For example, he gets very articulate when you ask him, hey, what do you want to do at the end of the program? And he talks about becoming a collision repair tech. So overall, we thought his level would be above a 2, but below a 3, which is indicated by the blue circle. So we monitored our work and we kind of rooted it in data to see if what we're doing was working or not. So the first thing we focus on is the spray gun test. Now, when Muhammad originally took the test, he received a 12%. A lot of the parts of the test were mislabeled and misspelled, and spelling was impeding understanding. We did a 2-folded approach to differentiation each time through discussion and then specific differentiation. Now, the student was really centered to this whole process, especially because he's an adult. We really wanted to build his buy-in in the process and his ownership of his own learning. So the very first thing we did every time is we talked about the result with the student. How do you think you did? Why do you think you did that way? What was challenging? We also reviewed the sounds and meanings of each of the terms. And then we specifically had oral practice talking about each part of the spray gun out loud and using those terms correctly. Now for differentiation, we color-coded the study guide to help them split up the parts and associate them with the vocabulary words. We also talked about some study skills and settled on rewriting each term 5 times for 4 nights before retaking the test. We modified the test to match the color coding of the exam. And we did a little bit of a gradual release because in between, Muhammad practiced taking the exam, but with a provided vocabulary bank, so you can feel some success before having to do it cold. Very exciting because on his second attempt the following week, he got an 87% and misspelled only one item. So this is what the test had originally looked like. This is the color-coded test, which also matched the color-coded study guide. And this is the in-between intermediate. So on the bottom right are the vocabulary words in scrambled order. The second thing we focused on is the paint defects test, because again, he had to pass that test to go out in the shop. Now there's 24 paint defects on this exam, and it's quite involved. You need to know the defect, its name, the cause, and you have to be able to explain it. When Muhammad originally took the test, he actually got a 0, which is not very good. So again, the first thing we did is we talked to the student. We then reviewed the sounds and meanings of each of those terms. We then worked with the student and the teacher to reword the definitions and causes, so in words that the student understood. So instead of just memorizing and rewriting them, he was actually understanding what he was writing down. We again practiced talking about each defect and what caused it. And we picked visuals for each one and discussed why the visual matches that specific defect. Now for differentiation, we created visual supports. We also modified the exam to have one cause instead of 4 or 5. And the way we arrived at that is we talked with the instructor to decide which cause was most central for the student to know. We then just increased the spacing on the test because it was very overwhelming. We divided it into 3 parts. So instead of taking 24 defects together, he took 3 tests of 8 defects throughout the course of 3 days. And we provided the causes for some of the defects that the student identified as being most challenging for him. So our results were that he received 75% on the first part, and 87% on the second part, and 100% on the third part of the paint defects test. When he spoke with the teacher and identified the defects and causes orally, he was able to identify 90% of all defects correctly. So this is what the test originally looked like, pretty overwhelming. This is what Muhammad's test looked like. So if you notice, there's a visual that supports each of the different types of defect, the definition, and some of the causes provided. And this is the test that we actually gave to everybody, just to kind of have more visual space and not be as overwhelmed. So this is a monitoring tool I use to record my work with the student and the teacher. And the idea here is that it's important to kind of keep an ongoing record so we're aware of when we met, the outcome, the strategies, and our next steps. And also a reminder that this process, differentiation, student support, student success, is really an ongoing process that needs continued reflection and differentiation. Something I want to share is I asked this student some questions, and below are his responses about this work we did together. So I asked him how he felt about the upcoming defect test, and he said that splitting the test into parts has been really helpful for him to both remember and answer correctly. So if you notice in the box on the blue on the right, he is talking about chunking material, although he's not using those terms. He's talking about that modification. Now, I asked him how he felt his overall understanding was, and he shared that it's better to have a visual, especially for terms that were previously unfamiliar to him. So again, visual supports. We asked how he performed so successfully in the second time taking the test, and Muhammad said that it was really helpful to write things out several times a night, so repetition. He also said, now I really understand the importance of studying consistently, so we're building good habits. And he specifically mentioned the opportunity to use those terms correctly when speaking with the teacher and the paraprofessional through that authentic oral language practice as contributing to his success. When I asked him overall, how do you feel you're doing in the class? he said that he's really proud because he feels like as the material gets harder, he's still able to be successful, and he's been getting compliments for his work in the shop from the teacher. So that specific positive recognition is really important to building confidence in the learner. So some next steps are, we have 2 celebrations. One, he actually performed the spray test in the shop. He actually got the second highest grade out of the class. And now the teacher has taken on some differentiation strategies and become more aware of how to use them, maybe with other students in a wider setting. On the bottom, you see the goal that has crossed out in blue in it. And the idea there is that consistent differentiation is important through reflection, because it's really important to see how is the student doing, is what I'm doing working, and how do I maintain it for it to be challenging and supportive at the same time. So our edited goal for Mohammed is to use expanded oral and written sentences with specific vocabulary, and also to participate in conversations not just with the teacher, the parent, or myself, but with other classmates as well. Thank you very much.